Hi, welcome to the Brief Book Reviews channel, otherwise known as An Old Guy Reviews the Book that he's read this week. So what's the old guy read this week? Well, the book I've read this week is this one. It's called Two Kinds of Stranger by author Steve Cavanagh. Was published as a hardback edition by Headline here in the United Kingdom on the 31st of July 2025. And it's the ninth adventure for former con man turned lawyer Eddie Flynn. I've reviewed a couple of the Eddie Flynn books previously on the channel. Really enjoyed them, so I was anticipating the next Eddie Flynn adventure, and I wasn't disappointed. This is another really good one. So, what's it all about? Well, you can probably tell by the strapline on the front that says, "She helped a perfect stranger. She didn't know he was a perfect killer." So, the central character in this book is a lady, a 27-year-old girl called Elly Parker. She's recently married to James. Everything in her world is going well. She's a social media influencer and she's got a great following on various social media platforms. But her thing, if you will, is what she calls random acts of kindness, where she goes around the city in New York and she sees people that need a bit of help. She films it, records it, and encourages her viewers, her followers, to do the same. And very often you see the hashtag RAK, random acts of kindness, trending on various platforms. So everything's going well until one day Elly goes home and she just bought a load of stuff from the local pharmacy and she's going through what she's bought because some of it she's going to give away, and hears a noise and thought, hang on, what's going on? Now she's actually live streaming this, goes into her apartment only to find her husband James in bed with her best friend Harriet. Clearly this is a bit of a blow. Not only has Elly discovered her husband of a couple of weeks is cheating on her with her best friend, but the whole world knows about it because it's just been live streamed on social media. So the book kicks off with Elly trying to recover from this bit of treachery and this blow to her image, if you will. She's off to New York to see her agent Giselle, and they're going to try and come up with some sort of strategy to cope with that. While she's on the underground, she sees a guy struggling with his suitcase who's got a plaster cast. I nearly said a caster plast. Rewind. A plaster cast on his leg, and he's clearly struggling. Elly, being a helpful sort of soul and certainly one who promotes random acts of kindness, decides to help him. They get out of the tube, they're on the overground, and he said, "Oh, my apartment's just around the corner." I said, "Okay, I can manage." And she says, No, look, you're clearly struggling. Let me help you with the case." So she goes back to his apartment. He says, "Oh, there's some cartons of water in the fridge. Clearly there's been a bit of a struggle getting me and the case back up. Have a drink." So Elly does. And next thing she knows, the lights are going out. Elly wakes up in hospital and she can't quite understand what's going on because she's clearly lost consciousness. There's clearly something dastardly happened in the apartment with this stranger that she's tried to help. And she can't feel her left hand. I thought, hang on, what's going on? And suddenly realised she's handcuffed. And she quickly gets a visit from two NYPD detectives basically saying that she's under arrest for the murder of her husband and her best friend, James and Harriet. And she's like, what on earth's going on? So she tells them the tale of the stranger and the fact that clearly she's been poisoned. There was a homeless man that saw her and sort of turned around, and clearly she could have been very, very ill. Doesn't know what's happened to James and Harriet, but clearly they've been murdered, and she's the prime suspect given the previous infidelity of her husband. So that's the background to the story. Well, who are you going to call? You're accused of a double murder, which you know you didn't do, and she's off to get hold of Eddie Flynn. So regular readers of the Eddie Flynn books will know there is a certain crew involved, and happily they're all here. Eddie has got a partner called Kate Brooks, who's another lawyer. Whilst Eddie tends to fly a bit close to the wind, Kate is straight down the line, does things by the book. He's got retired Judge Harry Ford that helps him, and obviously Harry's dog Clarence, who's there in a support role. He's got his investigators Gabriel Lake, who's ex-FBI, Melissa Block, who's ex-NYPD. So there's the usual crew that are in Eddie's books are on the case to try and find out what's happened to Elly and why she's been framed for the murder of her husband and her best friend. So we come across a very ingenious villain in this book. The guy that was the stranger that Elly helped. He's a student of human psychology. He knows how people behave, and his day job is a marketing consultant because he knows what ticks people's boxes. So he's a very, very conniving, understands people's psychology, a very, very clever and devious villain in this case. So we've got the task that Eddie and crew are presented with, finding out what on earth's going on, who this guy is, and why he's trying to fit Elly up for the murder of her husband and friend. Just for fun, we have some another case which Eddie and Kate have to take on, where Eddie's ex-wife Christine is married to a guy called Kevin, and Kevin's being threatened by somebody that was trying to do a misdeed that he's pulled him up on, because Kevin's a lawyer as well. So we have Eddie's team being pulled in a couple of directions, and we have the devious criminal trying to leverage the fact that they're running a bit thin. So this is a really, really good story. We have a mega devious villain. We have that side of the thing where murders are occurring, and we're trying to find out what's behind them and how they occurred. But also this culminates in a couple of trials. So we have a lot of courtroom drama as well. So I really, really enjoyed it. The actual story is 403 pages. It's a typical Eddie Flynn story where, in order to help an innocent person, Eddie is flying very close to the wind and bending the law. And we see the conflict between the two lawyers, Eddie and his partner, Kate. Kate's daughter of an ex-NYPD copper, and she plays everything straight down the line. And Eddie, encouraging her to bend the rules somewhat, just doesn't sit right. But she feels that sometimes she may have to make that choice. So a really, really good Eddie Flynn story. If you've read the previous ones, you'll enjoy this. If you want a good summer read, then I thoroughly enjoy it. So as I said, well-written characters, fast-paced, a really, really devious and clever villain in this case, and obviously lots of twists and turns, and culminating in a couple of very shocking bits of information that are definitely twists that you won't have seen coming regarding the villains of the piece. So, as I said, really enjoyed it. I'm probably erring on the side of not giving marks out of 10, because it's all a bit, people say to me, oh, well, you give that one 7 out of 10, why didn't you give it 8? So I'll just say that this is a really, really good read. I'd recommend it. I thoroughly recommend it. So I think that's it for this week's brief book review. Another great Eddie Flynn story. Go to your local bookshop and get it. So that's it. 10/10 to do it again. Thanks for watching.